would like to say greetings and the best of salutation. There will be prayer, power, peace, patience, and prosperity. Welcome to Thorough Thursday. We're in that which is designed to provoke thought. Also, when it comes to the human integrity, dignity, and benevolent restoration project. Common needs, common issues, common problems, common questions that is of concern. The need is for spiritual guidance. Anything that remains in its natural form and natural state is spiritual. The answer to the question is a question of governance. How we govern our affairs on a daily basis. The solution to the problem, one must be able to do his or her best to overcome the identity crisis. For the problem is not the problem, it's the attitude that we have about the problem is the problem. And the issue is character resolve. Excuse me. For the material that has been given to us to build on our humanity is character. Today I want to try to express in this wise, the best way I can, by contrast. And what I mean by contrast, it is designed to restore social credibility. In restoring social credibility, one is in a position to readdress social diversity and puts one in a position to know the importance of revising social coherency, puts one in a position of replenishing social continuity, and finally reclaiming solidarity, social solidarity. Yes, one thing I realize about contrast, it may alter appreciation, but yet it serves its purpose. Overcoming an adverse effect and possibly also eliminating what is called xenophobia. There is a Hebrew term for peace. It's made up of 4 alphabets or letters: Shin, the Lamed, the Vav, and the Mem. And you can look at how they are graphically constructed, and there is something behind that. But it means that peace only comes when the authority connected with the chaos and confusion are destroyed. Peace only comes when the authority connected with the chaos and confusion is destroyed. I wrote something the other day, or shared something in application or in applying for a particular position. And I shared it and had to write 500 words about a mission when it comes to advocating for economic justice for Baltimore residents. I'm just going to share it with you before I, as a preamble, until I and transition from that in this expression. The strategy for changing the narrative, because the narrative must change, primarily requires expanding levels of access to financial resources, establishing relationships of trust in the process of employing the development to empower and provide opportunities for Baltimore City residents in order to achieve economic justice. 1, developing and understanding. This leads to restoring social credibility. 2, exhibiting a greater sense of tolerance. This leads into learning how to readdress social diversity. 3, becoming less temperamental. This leads to revising social coherency or being coherent. 4, displaying more confidence in self. This leads to replenishing the social continuity of each other as Baltimore residents with confidence in cooperating with each other. 5, being more respectful to self as well as to others. This leads to restoring social solidarity of the residents. The narrative have just changed. Anytime you advocate for anything or anyone, it must materialize. Change is a product of human effort. And no one will change if they don't see an issue with their action. So the issue is character resolve. Dr. King, lieutenant, although he called himself an enfranchiser, Reverend Bevel personally said to me that there are 4 things that we face every day: problems, questions, issues, and needs. These 4 are the keys to making a successful connection with Baltimore residents, and building a rapport with the clients will be immeasurable. Not to mention my past, present experiences helped me to be able to grasp this concept for a brighter future. The problem is the identity crisis. The problem is not the problem, but the attitude that one has about the problem is the problem. So one must understand the importance of problem-solving skills by overcoming vices of environmental influences, even if it's on social media. Anything that prevents a person from becoming reacquainted with themselves is a problem. The answer to the question is one of governance, that is to be aware of the indicators and directives as it pertains to what course of action will be taken in allowing the process for change to take its course, because it is important to have competence. Knowing that the client is demonstrating and working on becoming reacquainted with themselves, seeing themselves as an investment as well as an investor. The issue seems to stand out more so than the other 3 because it deals with the client's initiative, drive, motivation, and determination to expand his or her way of thinking by removing from unhealthy environment to a more healthy environment. How they see themselves and the world will change. Education can help this, along with the proper use of economics. This requires a business incentives, which, when armed with the resources, they would need help in how to invest in allocating those resources to accomplish their goals. Finally, the clients in Baltimore citizens exclusively, judicially, and legislatively will help reinforce our connection with each other. Adequate cooperation leads to proper communication. We have effectively coordinated our power. We will have created a motivated environment for future generations yet to be born. Certainly together, yes, we can recover and achieve economic justice for its citizens. Needless to say, there could have been some editing that needed to take place. I make no excuses in this wise. When you know that you are on a mission and you are driven from within, you do not make any excuses. If there is an environment of doubt, meaning that we become suspicious of each other, as we learn to do our best not to be condescending and disrespectful to each other. And when one speaks from a position of authority, means that one speaks with confidence and conviction. It's not aggressive. It doesn't mean speaking down to anyone. And it definitely shouldn't come at the expense of other people. It says that gossip is akin to murder. Yes. When one is speaking with authority, you're not trying to hurt or demean others. As that is a foundational stone, I will proceed on. It is said in the book Ethiopia and the Origin of Civilization by John G. Jackson. He said that most readers of history know about the Celts, ancient inhabitants of Europe, whose priests were known as the Druids. We know in Baltimore you have Drew Hill Park. Known as Druids, it is generally thought that these Celts, we see what is called the Celtics in the basketball thing, were Caucasian, but Sir Godfrey Higgins, after much study, came to the conclusion that they were a Negroid people. Higgins wrote a ponderous volume entitled The Celtic Druids in the following passages of Anacalypsis. Modestly refers to it as an essay. Quote, in my essay on the Celtic Druids, I have shown that a great nation called Celti, whom the Druids were the priests, spread themselves almost all over the world, earth, and are to be traced in their rude, gigantic monuments from India to the extremity of Britain. The religion of Buddha of India is well known to have been very ancient. Higgins is here referring to the first Buddha, who is supposed to have lived between 5,000 and 6,000 years ago, and not to the Gautama Buddha, who lived about 600 years BC. There were at least 10 Buddhas mentioned in the sacred books of India. As a quote, who these can have been but the earlier individuals of the black nation whom we have been treating, I know not. In this opinion, I am not singular. The learned Maurice says Kutshites or Kushites, i.e. Celt, built the great temples in India and Britain and excavated the caves of the former. In the learned mathematician Reuben Barrow has no hesitation pronouncing the Stone Age to be a temple, black curly-haired Buddha. Anacaleptus, Volume 1, Book, Chapter 4, New York, 1927. Though it is generally believed that Columbus discovered America, it is now definitely known to students of American archaeology that Columbus came late. Professor Leo Weiner has written a 3-volume work, Africa and the Discovery of America, in which he argues that the New World was discovered by Africans long before the time of Columbus. Professor Weiner was led to this conclusion partly from the following evidence. African words in American Indian languages. The pipe bowl, found in the ruins of the mound builders. Vases, showing Negro faces on their surfaces. 3, the presence of African foods in America, such as peanut and the yam. The Tomic organization of the American tribes, of the Armenian tribes, very similar to African totemism. Totemism is a sort of primitive theory of evolution. For instance, certain tribes are divided into clans, and each clan is, as a rule, named after some species of animal. Let us suppose a tribe is divided into 4 clans bearing the following names: eagle, bear, cow, and wolf. A member of a bear clan will consider themselves as descended from the bears. A member of the wolf clan will tell you that he is a wolf and that all of his ancestors were wolves, and so on. This clan ancestor being known as totem. There are numerous definitions of totemism, the best I have come across being the following. One by Professor A.C. Hatton, totemism, as Dr. Fraser and I understand, in its fully developed condition, implies the division of a people into several totem kins, or as they are usually termed, totem clans, each of which has one or sometimes more than one totem. We use terms like bottom of the totem pole. We use terms like bipolar. The totem is usually a species of animals, sometimes a species of plant, occasionally a natural object or phenomenon, very rarely manufactured article. The totems are regarded as kinsfolk or protectors of the kinsmen who respect them and refrain from killing and eating them. Now, animal heads Imam Wandi Muhammad would say, it would associate that with one's appetite. But there is thus a recognition of mutual rights and obligations between members of the kin and their totem. The totem is the crest or symbol of the kin. We see vestiges. That's when he went to Egypt. When he went to Egypt, I would say, Brother Imam Wandi Muhammad. Or, that which he studied. Let's put it that way. Vestiges of totemism in our political organization. Here in America, for example, the Democratic donkey and the Republican elephant, baseball clubs, present, and even better example, totemistic atavism, or, for instance, who now, you could even associate that with even avatars. But for instance, who has not heard of a baseball team bearing such names as Tigers, Cardinals, Bears, Bees, Bisons? Winer theories have not been kindly received by his colleagues. Professor H. J. Spiden sneers sarcastically in the following condensed extract from Culture, the Diffusion Controversy. I'll stop right there. The influence of the Negro, or the American who claims the name as African, and there always have been and always will be a major force to be reckoned with when the people come to the realization of their impact that they have made on the map of world history. I want to share something else in regards to a book that was written on, if I can find it, of a brother, Paul Robeson. And I want to find that page, if I can, see where it's at. And I think it's something that should be shared when it comes to Paul Robeson's father, William Robeson. It says here is that Marie Lucia Busto, that is a Native American tribe, and all the attributes of class and culture William lacked. Lineage, affluence, social status, and family tradition. This is from the book. That which some people perceive that they lack, they are not lacking, because it has not been taught to them. Because I think that what Schomburg, Professor Schomburg at the Institute in New York, Dr. Clark, he was asked a question about his, learning African American history. He said, "Man, go study the history of your oppressor. Then come back to me," and paraphrasing. Because that which is oppressing us is really ignorance. Ignorance is the result of hostility, as if there's nothing else to be learned. Yes. People have this fixation and very dogmatic, very rigid, and says, well, it gets very extreme because that which we need to be saved from is really being extreme. Because if it's not written, some would say, well, it is not so. But if there is no writing, what make it not to be so? So that which is so is in one's heart. Political activism and community services. Those things that which William Robeson thought that he lacked. When I think of Robeson, I think of, in Philadelphia, I think of Lincoln University. I think of Thurgood Marshall, who were denied to go to Maryland due to some xenophobia laws. Get into that. Of the people, xenophobia attitude of the people. He went to Lincoln. I tried to go to Lincoln myself. No messing about it, different if you know. It was a letter that was written, and I went there to the institution by a brother by the name of Cain Hope Felder, who wrote Troubling Biblical Waters. I asked him to write a letter for me, and he did. It was really basically too far for me to travel, and maybe some other underlining things that I just can't recall because it's been some time. It was shared to me by a brother who made his transition, a young brother, very sharp brother. And he respected me. And he said, well, man, this is where a school he should go because he went there and benefited from it. But in Philadelphia, there were scarcely more than a dozen black families with educational and financial resources comparable to those of the Bustles. They were at the center of Philadelphia's black elite. Interesting. A tiny group of fair complexion, long-time free blacks who claim a special status by virtue of their family, history, education, wealth, and culture. I'm going to repeat that. A tiny group of fair complexion, long-time free blacks who claim a special status of virtue of their family history, education, wealth, and culture. That's a connection. All praise is due to our ancestors. Old Philadelphians, as they were called, like other similarly situated families in the cities throughout the country, outwardly moved and resembled the better class of whites than the rest of the black population. Generally, they lived in large, well-appointed homes, employed servants, and were well-educated and culturally sophisticated. Now, you know that would make someone to become xenophobic. The Bustles boasted an additional distinction that wealthier families like the Fortons could not rival their family, meaning age that continuous genealogical records dating back to the first treaty made by William Penn. The Lenape Indians, the Bustles claimed themselves the earliest Negro family in the United States. This is when I said the Bustles associated, I said of the tribe, but it is, the name was the Lenape Indians. The Bustles claimed themselves the oldest Negro family in the United States. Philadelphia's black aristocrat inherit a long tradition of leadership from the forebears active in educational and religious affairs, and in the abolitionist, civil rights, and moral reform movements. Cyrus Bustle Mervis Lewis' great-grandfather was born in Burlington, New Jersey on February 2nd, 1732. Having himself experienced slavery, he was sold, inherited a part of an estate, and sold again before being purchased by the Quaker Thomas Pryor Jr., who freed him after 7 years of service. Cyrus Bustle succeeded despite the crippling obstacles. No excuse. The crippling obstacles facing free blacks of this day. After learning the baking trade from his Quaker master, he established his own baking business in New Jersey. He served in the Revolution, baking for soldiers, and at its conclusion received the hand of George Washington himself, a silver piece for his efforts. After war, Bustle moved to Philadelphia with his baking business, prospered, and along with a handful of other enterprising blacks. Remember, Martin Delany says in 1800s, franchise or suffrage. Enterprising blacks, James Fulton, Absalom Jones, J.M. Douglas, and William Douglas, provided Philadelphia's growing black community something it sorely lacked: sound leadership, buttressed by economic substance. If you notice, I presented early in the letter, as I shared about economic justice for Baltimore residents. And everyone's familiar with Reginald Lewis. The point that I'm making here is that the growing black community, something sorely lacked: sound leadership. When you deal with leadership, before you get to leadership, you got to deal with what they call, which is popular or trends. And then when you deal with that, you have to deal with the next thing, the principles in which one stands on. And then you deal with the principles which one stands on, you deal with institutions that reinforce it. And then when you deal with the institutions, you deal with the culture. And then when you deal with the culture, you deal with the customs. And then you deal with the custom, and then you deal with what? The leadership, Yes. Sound leadership, buttressed by economic what? Substance. Everyone familiar with A.J. Gustins, the businessman. If you're not, check him out. Anyone familiar with S.B. Fuller, the businessman? So, sound leadership, buttressed by what? Economic substance. Cyrus Bustle commitment to what? To community life and civic service complemented his business acumen, making him a what? A moral as well as a financial community leader. Yes, a financial community leader. It is not by happenstance that when I tried to come up and create a Common Humanity Mission as this nonprofit organization, I saw the need. What did I see? I saw that people are lacking self-worth. So I promote the value of self-worth. And the mandate is to cultivate the potential of knowledge that is in us all. And the motto is to communicate with precision, a 5.5 channels of communication: understanding, tolerance / temperament, confidence, and respect. There is not happenstance that I created a commune news journal letter, a commune journal writings. It's not by happenstance. that I went about creating what is called the Brother Raglan Appeal out of the spirit of Henry Howard Garnett, Easton, and David Walker literature. It's not by happenstance that I came up writing and published 8 books. It's not happenstance that I'm doing it. I am embodying the spirit of the ancestors. Yes. Making moral financial community, making him as a moral as well as a financial community leader. That's important. Yes, that's important. I'm going to go on, then I'm going to bring it to a close. Cyrus Bustle's commitment as a civic service complemented his business acumen, making him a moral as well as a financial leader. Then we see how this influenced Paul Robeson, huh? Yes. Now, at a young age, he became convinced of the rectitude of the Friends' principles, converted to the Quaker religion, vowing he would not perpetuate a race of slaves. That's important. He refused to marry until late in life. Decision making. There was no need to blame anyone. Decision making. I can bear witness to that in my life. And then chose as his wife a woman of what is called Indian descent. Elizabeth Morley, and I know some say, well, black codes, but what is black when it comes to slavery, what have you. That's on them. But needless to say, I'm making a point here. Elizabeth Morley, acting in concert with the city's most progressive Quakers. I mean, listen, when it comes to black people, don't think that the benevolence, remember I said earlier about restoring the integrity, the dignity, and the benevolence when it comes to the human restoration process. Someone must be generous or be benevolent in order to, assist you and help you along the way. The benevolence of others. This creation is a benefit to us. Yes. And we must be kind and good steward to it. And therefore, it is required for us to be kind and good stewards with the resources that we have. And we can tell that we have not, surely he or she gets what they strive for. You think on that. Well, the city's progressive Quaker, Buster, along with a few other pioneering blacks, helped lay the intellectual framework for the ideas that would later make Philadelphia the center of radical egalitarian thought in America. Yes, as a member of several of Philadelphia's benevolent societies and the founder of African Free Society, 1787, Cyrus Buster labored for the intellectual. She labored for the, listen. Cyrus Buster, I get him confused calling people he or she, but it's fine. Cyrus Buster labored for the intellectual, social, and moral progress of Philadelphia Negroes. So we're talking about, when it comes to history, we're talking about laboring for the intellectual, social, moral progress of the citizens, of the residents. This is a blueprint for politicians. This is a blueprint for clergy. This is a blueprint for leaders. Yes. And that which you shall labor for. After retiring from business, he built a house at the 3rd and Green Streets where he opened a school where he died in 1806. The white community extended an uncommon gesture of respect by detailing his life story in the white newspaper. The Society of Friends conducted his burial services. But what is this talk? As I shared earlier, it is a talk really about being assertive and being progressive. Because when you are progressive, you are restoring social credibility. And a person that is credible is a person that's about his or her word. I always say I'm 98% about my word. There's 2% in there. But integrity. Because history proves, when it comes to our ancestors, is to not only have the integrity, but to restore the what? The dignity. The dignity of the people. The dignity of humanity. Huh? And how do you do it? You do it the benevolent way. But if there's something lacking, when it says here that sound leadership buttressed by what? Economic sustenance. And as he labored for the intellectual, social, and moral progress of Philadelphia Negroes, that should be a blueprint when it comes to, once again, the leadership of the world, the leadership of the local community when it comes to what is called African Americans, the leadership Well, I'm going to say this in closing. All that I am is not yet what I have come to be. But yet, I be, you be, we be, and they be. As we travel this journey, there was a story about hiking. There was 3 things that were shared. Be prepared to spend time in the outdoors. Make sure you have good shoes and also, a good backpack. There's one more thing I can't recall. But number 2, eat before you're hungry. This is the journey. Drink before you're thirsty. Be comfortable on this journey called life. And number 3, don't be intimidated by more experienced, I'm paraphrasing, more experienced hikers. There are points, place of refuge where you can stop, take a rest, and relax. And appreciate your accomplishments to this point or to this far on your journey. Because the hike or the journey is not about exercising. It's about slowing down. Until next time, talk to you. Reverend Wallen Kevin, teachers of teachers, preachers of preachers. When it comes to reverence from the heart, overcoming being mentally enslaved and caged, and enraged, personal quest of finding resolve and coming to complete civility. SeeHumanity.org. Give to the gift of social literacy. I didn't get a chance to really get into the culture, unity of Black Africa. Chinka Diop. I didn't get a chance to get into the history White People by Neil Painter. I didn't get a chance to get into this book, Brother Willie Muhammad, the 38 practical methods to use to study the teachings of Elijah Muhammad. I didn't get into this neither, something to deal with substance abuse counseling. You know, I always say the substance is the essence. The human essence that is being abused. I didn't even get a chance to get into this. You can make a difference. The workings and lessons and teachings of Common Humanity Mission Human Restoration Project. Hostile proxy Savis. Till next time. Talk to you.